The Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles are one of my favorite IPs ever. I've got tons of love, tons of nostalgia for so many things with this franchise. The original movie is one of my favorite movies ever. The original animated series, watched that constantly as a kid, had many of the tapes, the toys, the Mirage comics too, love those. I'm a big creature design guy, like I love monsters and stuff, so you've got so many cool designs across all the Turtles media. I absolutely love it. There's even a lot of newer stuff I like. I don't want to just be a nostalgic old man. The 2012 animated series I thought was great. Jesus, that's 10 years old now. I just realized that. Yeah, I really like that new thing that's a decade old. Man, I'm getting old. In terms of the comics, something I try to recommend anyone who grew up with the Turtles, and something that is newer, even newer than 2012, Last Ronin. Can't recommend that enough. It's set in the future. 3 of the Turtles have been killed. I won't spoil which ones. And the last one is out to avenge them. They brought the original creators, Peter Laird and Kevin Eastman, back for this. It has a lot more of the violent nature the original comics had. Highly recommend if you're looking to explore more Turtles media. And of course, you can't talk about the Turtles without addressing their impact on gaming as well. The classic Konami games, man, remember when Konami was legit top tier? You had the legendary difficulty of the NES games.
Fuck! We can just walk over it? You can just walk over it.
And of course, the peak, the arcade beat-em-ups that many of us also played on consoles. Turtles in Time in particular, one of my favorite games of all time. Now, there have obviously been a bunch of Turtle games released since the retro ones of varying quality. Some have been good. I'm not trying to act like they've all been bad, but nothing has been nearly on the level of those classic games in my opinion. And some have tried to invoke the name of those titles. We had that awful remake of Turtles in Time a while back that everyone pretty much agreed to just pretend doesn't exist. And now we've got the latest game in this storied saga of TMNT titles, Shredder's Revenge. As soon as I saw it, I was instantly hyped by the style, again harkening back to those classic titles, all the designs being lifted right from the 80s cartoon. But at the same time, a little worried because, again, I have a high standard in terms of what I want out of this type of game. If you follow my channel, you know, like with Nintendo, that's the kind of fanboy I am. I consider myself a fanboy of a lot of this stuff, but the way I go about it, rather than excusing all their shortcomings, I'm the opposite. I expect more of the stuff I like. So if you're going to evoke the name of these classic games, then you better nail it. I went into this with extremely high expectations, and they were exceeded. This game is just absolutely phenomenal. All of the gameplay in this video was captured on the Nintendo Switch, by the way. This is certainly, as with many more indie-type games, something I would recommend people go with the Nintendo Switch version. I did play it on Series X, because it's included with Game Pass. Yeah, you're going to notice a slight visual bump, but nothing that I'd say is worth not being able to have this game playable in handheld mode. The raw gameplay is some of the best beat-em-up action I've ever played. The way you can combo and juggle guys across the screen is incredibly satisfying. You also have a dodge, running, and sliding attacks, so bringing all that together to keep hammering guys, pump up that combo number even after they're already dead, right? It's like you just want to keep juggling their corpse because it feels so good. In terms of playable characters, of course, we've got the 4 Turtles, Leonardo, Donatello, Michelangelo, Raphael, but we've also got a bit more variety with Splinter, April, and you can unlock Casey Jones after you beat the campaign. All the characters feel great and unique to play. April especially feels just like a treat to me because if you told me you were adding playable characters to a Turtles beat-em-up, especially one inspired by the original cartoon, I'd assume you're talking about Casey and Splinter, but probably not April. And she's got so many cool details in her moveset, like using the boom mic in her combos, and it even puts like a headset on here. So many cool things like that. Yeah, I think I actually spent the most time playing as April. Something about that model too, you know, I hate to see her go, but I love to watch her leave, you know what I'm saying? Going deeper into the gameplay, you've got a super meter that builds up as you hit guys, but if you get hit, it goes down, so you're definitely trying not to get hit, especially on the higher difficulties, because you're really going to want to have those supers ready to go. In fact, the standard play gives you 3 lives to start with on each level, so you can get knocked out and have to restart from the beginning. There's a revive system as well, so if you're playing multiplayer, you've got a limited time to revive teammates before they fully go down and have to use another life. And I did have a couple of moments playing with others online that things did get a bit dicey, like being on a boss fight at the end of the level and seeing teammates go down, being on my last life, trying to finish that boss without having to restart from the beginning. So this really isn't just like a mindlessly walk to the right hitting guys type of experience. And of course, if you're talking about beat 'em ups, you gotta talk about how that multiplayer feels. This is what these games are all about. This is when they're way more fun, when you have other players. In Shredder's Revenge, you have support for 6 players, either offline on one system, which is great, or online, and the game holds up great in both of these modes. Yes, this is a Nintendo Switch game that performs amazingly online. In fact, they've done a lot of great things here. I really like how you can go to individual levels. There's like this really cool overworld where you move the turtle van over different levels, and you can go to whichever level you want and then search for online games that are playing that specific level. So that way you can easily jump into games wherever you want, as well as drop out. Things are incredibly smooth. It's just like an arcade. You can jump in, play with people for a level, drop out, they continue playing, someone else can jump in wherever they are in the middle of the level, anything, and the actual play is never interrupted. It's fantastic. The only complaint I could see with running a full 6-player game is the screen does get chaotic. Again, the frame rate in that I think holds up well, but there can just be a lot of shit happening on screen. I mean, you got 6 players, 4 or 5 of them just all hit their supers at once. It's a lot. But yeah, these core systems are just fantastic. And in terms of keeping the game engaging, again, like I said, it's definitely not just a walk to the right and hit stuff type of game. And there's a variety of enemies to face off against, all sorts of different foot soldiers. Most, are fodder, but some, like the spear charging ones, can get annoying. The Triceratons with their damn shields. And they get pretty deep cut with the inclusions here. You've got, of course, your mainstay baddies like Slash and Baxter Stockman, but going as far to include characters like Ground Chuck and Dirtbag. Again, seeing those original cartoon designs, so cool. And there's a lot of stuff going on beyond just the combat. There are regularly hazards you have to move out of the way from, obviously in the sections when you're like on the skateboards, but I remember even like the Rat King fight. There's like waves of rats running across the screen, so you have to be mindful of while you're hitting him to be ready to jump over the parades of rats. Just all around so engaging. So many little details too, like Easter eggs, nods to the history. I can't believe how much the punk frogs were featured in this, honestly. I noticed a lot of the moves being lifted from fighting games in that. And like the stuff they have the foot soldiers doing, sometimes when you walk onto a screen before you fight them, lounging on benches, being on the computers in the news building. I remember there was a set in the building that was like a cooking show, and they're standing around cooking with the chef hats on and everything. It's just so above and beyond what is necessary, and that's the kind of stuff that really takes a game that is such a great experience like this and puts it to that next level. I mean, just so many things that they didn't have to do, but they chose to do. Like the overall design of the levels, perfectly encapsulating that 80s vibe. The big CRTs everywhere going through like the old electronics store. The music too, something these games are famous for, 100% on point. Just so good, guys. I mean, what else do you want me to say? Now, the one complaint I have seen circulating around this game, which I assumed we'd see, because we always see it with this type of game, especially when people are trying to say like, this game's amazing, it's a 10 out of 10, it's a Game of the Year candidate. Every time I see that stuff happening, I always see replies being like, well, I don't think you could say that because the game, is really short. The game features 16 levels that can all be completed in a few minutes, definitely less than like 10 minutes apiece. So you're looking at probably somewhere between 2 to 3 hours for a full playthrough. Yes, unfortunately, some of you may be shocked to hear this beat 'em up is not a 100-hour JRPG. No, you want these arcadey beat 'em ups to be tight, so they don't get repetitive. And in an arcade-style game like this, you want something that can be beat in one sitting. These games were made for you to have your friends come over and play from start to finish. Like, do you guys remember when you were kids and had friends? That's how these games are meant to be. And there is replayability. There are challenges and collectibles in each level, some of which are tough. Like, I remember there was a challenge, like, straight up just complete the level without being hit. Good luck with that. The characters level up and get more abilities. Again, this isn't something crazy like with skill trees and that. You just get, like, some more health. You unlock, like, a jumping special attack, stuff like that. But that's a reason to keep going back to power up the different characters. And it's obviously not like they're charging a premium here. You know, yeah, if this game they were trying to charge $60 for it, maybe I'd have a problem. But I believe it's like $25, and I think it's actually on sale for the launch for $22, something like that. It's also worth mentioning again, if you're subscribed to Game Pass, you get the game included with that. So Xbox players, you actually have a great new game to play, which is definitely something worth celebrating over there. But yeah, this, to me, is an absolute masterpiece. It belongs right up there with the classic Turtles games. It takes what those established and improves on just about every element. I don't really have anything negative to say about it. The only thing I can say is I hope we get more of this. This isn't a game I think that needs DLC, but I'd obviously welcome it. Actually, man, if you want to talk about something that would put this over the top for me, make it like an 11 out of 10, is if they added Usagi Yojimbo as a playable character. I know you'd have to get Stan Sakai to sign off on that. You know, this isn't like a character that's actually part of the TMNT franchise, so there'd be some stuff you'd have to do there. But, man, if they could work out a deal for that, that would be so sick. Or maybe, you know, something to consider if they did a sequel. We are seeing a bit of a revival, I think, in the beat-em-up genre. A lot of great stuff coming out lately. Obviously, this game, Streets of Rage 4, River City Girls is one of my favorite newer IPs from the past few years. And I think there's a lot of other big IPs that could use this sort of treatment. If these guys over at Tribute Games are up for it, I mean, there were other big-name beat-em-ups from back in the day. X-Men obviously comes to mind. Would love to see something new with that in this sort of style. Add more characters like Jubilee. Also, don't forget The Simpsons, another beat-em-up classic. Imagine all the new stuff that could be put into a new Simpsons arcade game with another, whatever it is, 75 million episodes to pull from. And that's a reason, too, that I really hope this game is super successful, because this is a smaller use of a big IP that is, once more, just absolutely phenomenal. Hopefully this is something that can be presented to rights holders of other big IPs, big franchises, pointed at, be like, hey, Marvel, hey, DC, here's something that people love, and it didn't cost $100 million to make. This could be the start of a great trend. Anyway, with that, this video is a wrap. Let me know your thoughts on Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge in the comments. Are you currently playing the game? Do you love it as much as I do? Are you hoping we continue to get more stuff like it? As always, I'm the Shy Guy, Johnny Zakari, and thanks for watching.